Everyone to this new session of mobile communication and computing. In this session, we will continue with the GSM architecture. In the previous session, we had seen the radio subsystem of the architecture. Now, in this session, we will see NSS, that is network and switching subsystem, and OSS, that is operation subsystem. So, let's recall the functional architecture of the GSM. We have seen part up to this one, that is RSS, that is radio subsystem. Now in this session we will see these two parts, that is NSS and OSS. So as we can recall, RSS include the base station controller and mobile station. So network and switching subsystem, what does it include? Let's see. So NSS is the heart of the entire GSM system. That means entire functional working of the GSM system is based upon NSS. Mainly it consists of switches. Switches we have seen in the computer networks. Those can be used in the telephony network also. So switches and databases. So first switch, which is the core part of NSS, is Mobile Services Switching Center. This is MSC is nothing but a high performance digital switch which is used in the ISDN networks, that is Integral Services Digital Network, digital telephony networks. The primary function of these switches is to establish a connection to other MSCs and to the BSCs which are controlled by the MSC. For this connection, it uses A interface as specified in the standardization of the GSM system, and it forms the backbone network for the GSM system. So we can see in the diagram also it is mentioned that A interface is used for connection from BSC to MSC. A interface is standardized, so all GSM service providers should follow that standard. So primary role of the MSC is to control the BSCs in different geographical regions. So one MSC can control several BSCs. Apart from this main MSC, there is also one gateway MSC. As the name suggests, it is a gateway towards the other telephony networks like PSTN and ISDN. So transfer of connection from mobile network to fixed network is done via gateway MSC. So apart from that, if you are using data services in the GSM system, your packets will be transferred to other data networks like X.25 via interworking function unit. Okay, so all in all, MSC is responsible for handling all signaling information exchange needed for call setup, that is connection setup, end of a call, that is connection release, and handover of a call from one MSC to another MSC using SS7 protocol. SS7 is a signaling system number 7 protocol defined in ISDN services. It primarily controls or covers all the aspects required for sending control related information, that is requesting a service, alerting a user, then number portability, supplementary services like forwarding a call. All these services are covered by the SS7 protocol. MSC also performs functions needed for reverse charging, like if you are roaming into a new network, then you may be called or you may be charged for incoming calls also. So that is also controlled by the MSC. Apart from that, whatever payment charges or call charges or SMS charges or internet charges required, information required for that is generated by the MSC. Such information is forwarded to OSS. This information is called as accounting and billing information. So at what call charges you are availing the services, that information is generated by MSC. So if you consume 1 MB of data, how much you should be charged, or how much data you have consumed from your subscribed services, all that information is generated by the MSC. So this is the main function of MSC. Then apart from these switches like MSC and GMSC, that is gateway MSC, NSS also includes databases. There are primarily two types of databases: home location register, that is HLR, and visitor location register, that is VLR. So home location register is A database, as the name suggests, it is a home database for the subscriber. So meaning of a home database is in whichever MSC you purchase your SIM card, you start to use your subscriber services, that MSC becomes your home MSC, and database associated with that MSC becomes your home database, that is home location register. So what kind of information is stored in this home location register? So it stores two types of information, static and dynamic. Static information is permanent one. That means once you have activated your SIM card, this information remains throughout the lifetime in the HLR. So such information is MS ISDN, that is your mobile subscriber ISDN number, which is nothing but our phone number, which is 12 digit including the country code in India. Some in certain cases it is more than 12 digits depending on country code. Apart from this number, there are several other numbers like IMSI, that is unique identification number of your SIM card, that is international mobile subscriber identity. Then type of services you have subscribed for, like internet services like GPRS, or roaming services, or call forwarding services, conference call services. Whatever services you have subscribed for, that information is stored in the HLR. So this information is permanent one. Then apart from this, the dynamic information, which is regularly updated by HLR, it consists of the current location area of user, then the roaming number. If you are moving to some other MSC, then you will require a roaming number. That number is also stored in the HLR. Apart from that, if you are roaming into some other MSC, then you will be registered with visitor location register. So whatever your current VLR will be registered in your home database, that is HLR. So if you move from one MSC to another MSC, your location is updated via entry in the VLR. Okay. As soon as user, that is MS mobile station, leaves its current location, information in HLR is updated. So let's take an example. Let's say this is a cell which includes one MSC, HLR, VLR, and other parameter, other entities of the GSM system. Also, it includes different interfaces to different entities of the GSM system. So let's say you have purchased a SIM card within this MSC. This becomes your home MSC. So whatever entity is present in that, those will be your home entities, like home location register. Your information will be updated in this particular database. Okay. VLR associated with this MSC will not store your information. This VLR is responsible for outside users who come into this particular MSC. Okay. So this VLR is not for subscribe or registered user within that MSC. Okay. Whenever you leave this particular, let's say when you leave this particular MSC, like let's say you move on to some other network, then your entry or your information in HLR is updated. That is your dynamic information. You will be assigned MSRN, that is roaming number, that you will carry, and it will get registered in another VLR which is part of a different cell. Let's say this is the different cell which is controlled by this MSC. Okay, so this VLR, this particular VLR which is present in another MSC, that is this one, this VLR will update the information or get the information from HLR of the previous MSC. So that is how information keeps get updating and your location area is updated. So let's see about functions of VLR, because we have seen what are the functions of HLR. So what is the role of VLR? VLR is nothing but visitor location register. It is completely dynamic database which store all kind of important information needed for mobile user currently in the location area which is associated to the MSC. So it is completely for outside users. The phone number, IMSI, home location register address of the outside users will be stored in the VLR. So HLR is for home users, that is registered users within same MSC, whereas VLR is for database for outside users which are not registered in this current MSC. That's what it is said in the next statement. If a new mobile user comes into your current location area, then VLR associated with our MSC is responsible for all the relevant information, storing all the relevant information in the current VLR. Okay, so VLR acquires this information from that other MSC to which the foreign user is subscribed for. Okay, so this hierarchy of VLR and HLR avoids frequent HLR updates and long distance signaling of user information. So if you keep moving between two MSCs, your HLR should not be updated frequently, only contents of VLR will be updated. Some VLRs are capable of managing up to 1 million customers. Okay, so VLR is a dynamic, so it can remove the contents of old customers which are no longer part of your current MSC. They can be completely deleted and new information can be updated quickly. Okay, so this is about two types of databases, HLR and VLR. In summary, we can say that HLR is permanent database for storing registered users of current MSC, whereas VLR is responsible for storing information of visiting users to our current MSC. Okay, then moving on to the next subsystem, that is operation subsystem. As the name suggests, it is responsible for centralized operation and maintenance of all the GSM subsystems, that is RSS, NSS, and different entities involved in it or different components involved in it. So operation subsystem manages all other subsystems. It basically contains three types of components, that is authentication center, AUC, operation and maintenance center, OMC, and equipment identity register, EIR. So let's look at authentication center. In the last session, we have discussed that our conversation or our information that is exchanged over internet remains protected throughout the air interface. So authentication center will require to authenticate your identity. Also, it will require to encrypt your data. So primary role of authentication center will be protecting user identity and its data transmission, for which it will require encryption of a data. So what does authentication center do? It specifies authentication parameters on request of VLR. So when you go into the new MSC, the VLR will generate a request to AUC to generate authentication parameter for newly entered user, because anyone can enter into any kind of MSC. So to verify the authenticity of the user, AUC is responsible. Okay, apart from that, AUC contains algorithms to verify the authenticity, as well as it contains the keys required for verifying the authenticity and encrypting the data transmitted by the newly entered user or existing users. Okay, so authentication center is very important part of OSS, and that's why it is protected in the HLR, because HLR contains information of a permanent users or subscribed users or registered users. That's why authentication center works in tandem with the HLR and the MSC. Okay, so next is operation and maintenance center. As the name suggests, it monitors and controls all other network entities via standardized O interface, which is nothing but SS7 protocol along with the packet data network X.25. So what are the functions of OMC? What's the meaning of monitoring and controlling the other network entities? What does it monitor? It monitors the traffic on different channels, Then what are the status reports of different entities which are functioning to full capacity, which cannot accept, which entities cannot accept further request, or which are idle entities, like if there is any base station which doesn't have any user in its cell, then what to do about the channels allocated to that base station. All such status reports will be monitored by the OMC. Then where to check whether all the subscribers are authenticated or whether their data transmission is secure, that monitoring is also done by the OMC. Then in the MSC we have discussed the call charges or billing information that is generated by MSC is transferred to OSS. Now OMC takes that information from MSC and charges the user depending on the amount of voice or data that is transmitted by the user. Okay, so accounting and billing task is done by the OMC. Okay, so final part of the OSS is the type of database called as equipment identity register. As the name suggests, it keeps the identification numbers of all the equipments which are local or home to the current MSC. So stores all device identifications like IMEIs registered for this network. Visitors who are coming into your network will not register their IMEI permanently in EIR. That information is obtained from EIR of the other MSC from which they belong. So EIR contains handset IDs, that is IMEIs. It keeps three types of list. One is a black list which contains list of devices which are already stolen so that they can be blocked or locked, and such status will be also updated in the blacklist. So whenever your mobile handset is stolen, you complain to your customer care service and it updates the entry in the blacklist of the EIR so that further calls cannot be made from that particular handset. Unfortunately, these blacklist of different providers are not usually synchronized. So if you are using different service providers, they will not communicate with each other. That is a area of research why they don't communicate with each other. And illegal use of a device in another operator's network is still possible. So that's why it is not completely possible to track your device when it is moved out of the network. Okay, apart from this blacklist, there are also two more lists. One is a white list, which is a list of all the valid IMEIs which are currently in the network or currently registered to this network. Valid IMEIs are nothing but fully functioning IMEIs. Okay, that is white list. So last list is a gray list which is maintained by ER. It is a list of all the malfunctioning devices. Malfunctioning devices does not mean that if your display of a device is damaged, then it is not called as a malfunctioning device. Malfunctioning devices are those devices whose radiation power is above the standard or below the standard. That means if they are illegally transmitting more power, then that is malfunctioning device. Or if your device has modified its own IMEI, then it is called as malfunctioning device. If your device has a tampered MAC address which is required for Wi-Fi connection, then it is also a malfunctioning device. List of such malfunctioning devices is kept in the gray list. So user cannot fake its identity by changing the hardware components of the device. Okay, so that's why every registered user must have a valid IMEI to fully available or to fully avail the given services by the GSM service provider. Okay, so that is the last register. So this ends our entire architecture, in which we have seen three types of subsystems. We will revise them briefly so that you can write answers based on that. First is a radio subsystem, which includes BSC, BTS, and mobile station. You have to mention their functioning, what are the different roles of these three entities. Then comes a network and switching subsystem, which primarily contains switches and databases. MSC is a most important part of a GSM system, which is responsible for connection setup. Then gateway MSC is responsible for connecting your call to external networks, and IWF is responsible for transmitting GSM user data to other data networks. Then lastly, that is operation subsystem, which consists of a database to keep a record of valid IMEIs, and authentication center and operation center for maintaining or protecting user identity and user data, as well as keeping track of all the functioning of all other entities within the network. So that is all about GSM. Based on this architecture, all service provider provide mobile communication services to all the users all over the world. Okay, in the next session we will see the specifications of a wireless interface, that is UM interface, which is most important interface entirely in the GSM. Okay, so we will see that in the next session. That's all for today. Thank you.